by protecting the N group, the amine group, or the C group during the reaction. So we can control which one react first. Yang mana satu yang nak bertindak balas pertama. For the second reaction, then we can control lah. We can open the protecting group, so we let the second reaction to take place. For example, this one. So in this case, we want to react phenylalanine dengan glycine. And we want the sequence, kita nak sequence dia as phenylalanine glycine. Itu yang kita nak lah. Alright, itu yang kita nak. So in order to achieve this, so kita kena tutup. We have to protect the N group. So this N group cannot react. Kita tutup dia dengan protecting group. And then another group that we have to protect is the CO lah. Reaction senang, reaction senang. And then you couple the two protected amino acid. So you react between this COOH and NH because now they are open. They are open, they can react. So you get the peptide. You get the peptide and you get this peptide bond. And then last is you remove the protecting groups because you want the free amino acid, right, with the protecting group. So you potong lah. I'll show you how to cut it. So this process is called deprotection. So we deprotect the amino group at the N terminus and the carboxyl group at C terminus. So we remove the PG and we end up with the peptide that we want. All right. Maybe you ask me lah, you ask me why we have to do 3 steps. Bukan lagi bagus kalau kita just letak je 2 amino acid tu, lepas tu nanti kita tengok we end up with 4 combination kan, and then we purify lah, because this is what we want, right? But in the reaction container we have 4. We purify je lah? No. Purification is the most difficult step in organic synthesis. We want to avoid that. Kalau boleh kita tak payah buat purification, kalau boleh lah. So if you synthesize something, synthesis is the easy part. The most difficult part is purification. And this is the reason why Bruce Merrifield, I will show you in my slide later, this is the reason why Bruce Merrifield designed a unique way of synthesizing a peptide to minimize the need of purification. I tell you, I can synthesize the peptide in 2 days. 1 atau 2 hari, I get the peptide. But to purify, I need 2 weeks. 2 weeks to purify. Crazy, you know. So because you see these 2 peptides, they are 2 peptides, right? Dipeptides, sorry. They are dipeptides. Their properties are similar. So purifying them to separate this peptide from these 3 peptides is difficult because their properties are the same. You use HPLC, it's difficult to purify, you know. So purifying this, separating this from other peptides is difficult, especially if they have similar properties. Bukan senang, even more difficult than synthesis. So is it worth doing? Is these 3 steps worth doing? Yes. Because synthesis is easier than purification. Purification is like hell in organic synthesis. So especially if you have similar compound in your reaction mixture. So that's the importance of having the protecting group in your amino acid. Okay. Now, how to protect the amino group. Yeah, now we discuss how to protect. Ya. Even though I told you just now, selalunya kita beli sekarang. Ya. Kita tak payah buat, kita beli. Tapi of course you have to know kan, you have to know how to protect the amino group. Ya. So we discuss how to protect the amino group. Lepas ni, I'll show you how to protect the acid group. Ya. So we discuss one by one. So what are we trying to achieve by protecting the amino group? Yeah. So this one, free amine group, ya, sebelum kita protect lah, is can behave as nucleophile, ya, and then it will undergo reaction with carboxylic acid, ya. Tapi kalau kita protect this group, ya, if we protect this group to become amide, ya, ini kita dah cap lah dengan protecting group, ya. So now it become amide. Yeah, this is amide, right? No more NH2. Yeah, it becomes less nucleophilic. Yeah. It becomes less nucleophilic, so it's less reactive. So it will not react with carboxylic acid. Yeah, sebab kita dah cap, ya, kita dah protect dia dengan something, so it becomes amide. So it becomes less nucleophilic. As a result, amide derivatives of amine can be viewed as protecting group. Yeah, so normally we protect them, we cap them. Yeah. Another term yang kita selalu guna is capping. Yeah. We cap, yeah, we protect. So it's by converting them to amides. Yeah, it doesn't behave as nucleophile and will not react with carboxyl groups. So it's good. So this is the common protecting groups yang selalu kita guna lah. Actually ada banyak, bukan ini saja, ada banyak, tapi ini contoh lah. This is the common protecting group yang selalu kita guna, yang kita panggil dia as benzoyl carboxyl, atau selalu kita panggil dia CBZ, atau Z sahaja. So CBZ protection is carried out by treating an amino acid with benzoyl carbonyl chloride. So that's how we make a protected amino acid. Yeah. So this is the reaction lah. Yeah. So this is the benzoyl. This is a benzyloxycarbonyl chloride. Yeah. That we use to protect the amino acid at the N-terminus. So and then after the protection, it becomes like this. Yeah. This is the amino acid, and then this is the protecting group. Yeah. As you can see here, the amino group now it becomes less nucleophilic. So this is the reaction lah. Yeah? This is the reaction. So you take this benzoyl carboxyl chloride, yeah? And this is the amino acid yang you nak protect. Yeah? So we target this amine. Yeah? We target this amine. We run the reaction in simple, yeah? In NaOH, yeah? Very simple reaction. And then this is the end product. Eh? And the yield is 85%. So you still get 15% of impurities that you need to purify. You need to purify. All right. So this is how you write the molecule. Yeah. This is the whole molecular structure. Yeah. This is the amino acid. And this is the protecting groups. Yeah, this is the protecting group. Tapi selalunya we just put it as CBZ or Z. Yeah, so we know CBZ or Z. You don't have to draw the whole structure. Okay. After the reaction, as I already mentioned before, we have to remove the protecting groups. Yeah, kita kena buang. We call this process as cleavage. So we cleave the CBZ group. How? Yeah. So one of the reasons why CBZ is widely used is because it's quite easy to remove. Yeah. We can use hydrogenolysis, yeah, using hydrogen with a catalyst. Yeah. Atau you can use acid, yeah, HBr in acetic acid. So you can use either one. You can use hydrogenolysis, yeah, using hydrogen with catalyst. Yeah. So you just sembuh dia dengan hydrogen. Atau you can use HBr in acetic acid. Okay. So this is how you cleave the CBZ. Yeah, this is CBZ using hydrogen. Yeah. And this is the catalyst that you use. Yeah, you use palladium. And then this is the product, carbamic acid, which is very unstable. And you get toluene. Toluene can be easily removed by evaporation. Dia boleh hilang, which is it's volatile. And because carbamic acid is not stable, yeah, then the spontaneous decarboxylation happen. So you will end up with the unprotected amino acid. Yeah. So this is the CO2. CO2 will be released to the air. Yeah. All right. Now not many people use this. Yeah. Tak banyak yang still guna hydrogen. Yeah. Sebab we have to use gas, yeah, and it's hydrogen, so we prefer not to use gas, and then you have to put the catalyst, yeah, palladium, which is quite costly. Yeah. 15 years ago, I still saw some people in the lab, yeah, not here, but in the US, I saw some people, they still use this technique. Yeah. But that's old people lah, yeah. Tapi yang muda-muda, yeah, young scientists now, they don't use this anymore. Instead, they use acid. They use acid, HBr in acetic acid, and it will release benzyl bromide, which is volatile, carbon dioxide, and this is the amino acid that you want. Yeah. The purity is around 82%, so you still have to do a bit of purification, but not much, because it's already high. Basically, the yield is already high, around 82%. Yeah. What about the 18%? Yeah, 18% is unreacted reagent. Yeah, unreacted amino acid. Yeah. So it still will remain in the solution. So you have to remove it after the reaction. So this is the mechanism lah. Yeah, the mechanism of deprotection. Yeah, using acid. Okay. This is another protecting group, ya. Tadi CBZ kan, ini ada yang lain, ya. Kita panggil dia as BOC. Ini yang sekarang ramai orang guna lah, including me. Ya. I used this last time when I synthesized the peptide. So I use the amino acid that is protected by BOC. Ya. We call it as BOC. BOC is tertiary butyloxyl carbonyl. BOC. Ya. So the structure is different. Yeah. Tadi CBZ dia ada aromatic group, right? Dia ada benzene ring. For BOC, it doesn't have any benzene ring. Yeah? It doesn't have aromatic group, so it's smaller. So this is BOC, DOC, yeah, tertiary butyloxyl carbonyl. Okay. So so normally what we use to create a BOC protected amino acid is we use this BOC anhydride. Yeah. Some people they use tertiary butyl chloride, but this one is less stable. Yeah. So most people use a BOC anhydride to get the protected amino acid. Okay, so this is how you draw the structure. This is amino acid. Yeah, this is the N group, and this is the BOC. Yeah? Either you can draw the structure or you can write it as BOC. Yeah? So same thing like CBZ. At the end of the synthesis, you want to remove the BOC group, right? So you can either use PFA or use HBr, so you don't use gas. Yeah. Tadi CBZ you kena guna gas kan, but as I said, not many people use it anymore. Yeah, most people use acid. Yeah, it's easier. And the good thing about BOC compared to CBZ is you can use TFA. TFA is a weak acid. Yeah, it's not as strong as HBr. Yeah, so it's pretty safe to handle. I use TFA in my lab, yeah, to remove BOC group, and I put TFA in dichloromethane, yeah, in methylene chloride. So this is the reaction. Kalau if you use TFA, yeah, you use TFA, yeah, even though TFA is safer than HCl or HBr, but the smell is still strong. So we always we always do the reaction in the fume hood, yeah, in the fume cupboard. Okay, so this is the peptide protected. This is the BOC group, BOC, right? And then you just react with TFA. It will remove the protecting group, and it will evaporate. Yeah? The butane and carbon dioxide, it will evaporate, and you end up with your peptide, yeah? Free peptide without protecting group. And this is the mechanism lah, okay, to protect the BOC group. Okay, so now you know that the amine group can be protected, dan ada dua protecting group yang selalu kita guna yang mainly use. One is CBZ, and then another one is BOC. Okay? Tapi kalau you tengok sekarang mainly people use BOC. Okay? People use BOC. Okay? So we call it as BOC amino acid. Any question? Clear, eh? Boleh diterima. Dia faham?
Boleh.
Okay, yeah. So itu amine group, yeah. So the first 30 minutes I talk about amine groups. Oh, ini panjang cerita ni. So now we talk about acid group, carboxyl group, because it has to be protected as well, right? Okay, so macam mana kita nak protect the carboxyl group? So normally we protect the carboxyl group as esters, yeah? As esters, and then we deprotect by hydrolysis using INbase, yeah? So beza dia itulah tadi, kalau amine group tadi kita guna acid, yeah? But this one is for the protection we use base. Okay, so this is one example how we protect both. How we protect both. This is the this is the C terminus, yeah, we protect, yeah? And this is the N terminus, yeah, we protect with CBZ. Yeah? For the C terminus, we protect it using benzyl ester, yeah. And the good thing about using hydrogen, yeah, is you can do simultaneous hydrogenolysis. You can remove both protecting groups in N terminus and C terminus, yeah. So this is the end product lah. You get the peptide, yeah. This is the dipeptide, yeah, phenylalanine glycine. Glycine, yeah. And you see that both amine group and acid group now they are free, yeah. So you can do simultaneous hydrogenolysis. So ada banyak ester, ya. Ada banyak ester yang boleh guna, ya. The benzyl ester and plenty of protecting groups that you can use to protect the carboxyl group. Okay. So now we know how to protect the both, yeah, the amine group, the acid group. Now about the reaction itself, yeah, about the reaction, yeah? About the formation of peptide bond. So peptide synthesis is about forming a peptide bond, yeah. So there are two major methods that people are using now. First is by using DCC, ya. Ini yang method lama lah. Orang-orang lama dulu buat. This is the first method that some people are still using it, ya. But now I and most people use second method, ya, via an active ester of the N-terminal amino acid. Ya. So the first method that people use to react is by using DCC, ya, N-N-dicyclohexycarbondiamide, ya, or DCC, ya. Dicyclo yang panjang lah, kita panggil dia DCC lah, easier, ya. Okay, why we use DCC? Because DCC is powerful dehydrating agent. Yeah, so this is the structure. Yeah, this is the structure, and DCC is very keen in taking the H2O to form an N-dicyclohexylurea. Yeah, dari mana diambil air ini? Diambil air ini daripada this reaction. Yeah, first amino acid, second amino acid reacts by releasing water, and this water will be taken by DCC to become dicyclohexylurea, and this is the peptide as the end product. So peptide coupling, yeah, the peptide synthesis is a condensation reaction. We lose one water molecule. We lose one water molecule every time the two amino acid react. Yeah? So it's condensation. Yeah. So one amino acid loss. Yeah. And this is the reaction lah. The reaction is 1,2 addition. Yeah. So we start with the first amino acid. This is what amino acid? So remember what amino acid is this? Is this glycine or phenylalanine? Sorry?
Phenylalanine.
Yes, phenylalanine. Yeah, you can see the phenyl group here. Yeah, it's phenylalanine. Yeah. So when you react this phenylalanine with DCC, it will undergo 1,2 addition. The reaction will happen at the C terminus. Sebab apa? Sebab N terminus dah protected dah tak boleh react dah. Protected, tak boleh react. So DCC will react with C terminus, yeah, to become an ester. Yeah. Acylisourea derivative. Yeah. So what happened next is, yeah, let's see. Yeah, this is what happened next. Yeah. Once your first amino acid form an ester with DCC, yeah, this is DCC, yeah, then this CO, yeah, the CO will attack because this becomes negative. It will become positive. Yeah? It will be attacked by the second amino acid. This is the second amino acid, which is glycine. And if you realize the acid group of glycine is protected. Okay? So instead of attacking this acid group of its own, glycine will attack the CO of the first amino acid. Okay? The reaction is 1,2 addition, then proton transfer happen, and you will get this intermediate. Yeah, basically what you have here is CBZ, DCC, and the second amino acid with its protecting group. So you have everything. But it's unstable. Yeah? This is intermediate, a product, and it's unstable. It will undergo elimination, yeah, spontaneous elimination, and you'll get the dipeptide and the end product, yeah, which is DCC plus water. Okay, but this is not the final peptide. Yeah? This is not final product. What you need to do with this? Next.
React again.
To what? Sorry? Tak dengar.
Remove the protecting group.
Yeah. Remove the protecting group. Yeah. So in order for you to get the final peptide, you remove this and remove this. Okay. So itulah steps. So what is this? Oh, okay. This is the second method, active ester. Yeah? So instead of using DCC, we use active ester. Yeah? And this is one of the active ester that we use, yeah, para-nitrophenyl for the reaction. So this is the reaction. Yeah. So this is active ester method. Is another method. Yeah, it's different from DCC. Yeah. So this is the first amino acid. Yeah. First amino acid, and then it's protected lah, of course, ya. Dan dia punya acid group is open. So we use this, ya. This one is it's not DCC. We react in pyridine, and then this is the product. It's an ester. Yeah. It's ester. All right. And then after that, we put the second amino acid. Yeah. This is the second amino acid. As you know that the second amino acid is protectaminase. And this is the solvent that we use. Yeah. Right. And this is the product. This is the product. Okay, how's the reaction? So this is the step. How's the reaction? So when we add the second amino acid, yeah, this is the second amino acid, right? The reaction is almost similar like what happened in DCC. So the second amino acid will attack the CO group, yeah, by nucleophilic acid substitution, a spontaneous elimination to produce para-nitrophenol, and this is the peptide that you want. Yeah. The good thing about this method is, yeah, is this. Para-nitrophenol. Ya. Kalau you ingat tadi, kalau you ingat lah, ya, di sisi tadi, ya, this is the byproduct. Yeah, so you get your peptide, but this is the this is the byproduct. Yeah, that was DCC. If you use active ester method, the byproduct is para-nitrophenol, and para-nitrophenol can be observed using this reaction method, measuring the para-nitrophenol yang apa dalam apa sekarang ini kita synthesize a peptide guna mesin. Yeah. Some people they still prefer a conventional method, manual synthesis. But in the lab, in our lab now, we have the machine, yeah, to synthesize a peptide. Sangat senang, basically you just letak the amino acid, ikut the sequence yang you nak, lepas tu you tinggal sehari 2 hari, lepas tu datang you harvest the peptide. Yeah. Senang, you do the machine dia. Because of this, the machine can detect whether the reaction is complete by measuring the PNP that is formed at the end of the reaction. So dalam machine tu dia ada spectrophotometer embedded, dia ada integrated in the machine. Nanti dia akan measure the PNP, ya, para-nitrophenol that is formed at the end of the reaction. So memang is canggih lah, it's quite sophisticated machine, ya, peptides. We call it as automated peptide synthesizer. Tak boleh guna DCC, ya, sebab DCC will not produce para-nitrophenol, ya. if you use the machine, you can only use active ester method because this one ya, ini yang dia akan mesin akan tengok lah the amount of para-nitrophenol to determine whether the reaction is complete. Yeah. If the reaction is complete, then the machine stop. Oke, ini beberapa ester yang kita gunalah in active ester method. We use H2, we use HBTU, we use HCTU. You can choose either one. Yeah, the price is different. Last time, this is that I used. Yeah, HBTU. And the base that you can use for the reaction, either you can use TEA or DIPIA. Yeah, for the solvent for the reaction. Because this reaction run in a basic condition, so either use TEA or DIPIA. Okay. So in this first part of my lecture, yeah, so I show you how to synthesize the peptide in solution. Yeah, in solution. So it goes from N to C. Yeah. So first amino acid followed by the second amino acid, third amino acid, sampai last amino acid. So it goes from N to C. Yeah, from N terminus to C terminus. Protect the N terminus and then deprotect after the reaction. And then couple each amino acid by activating the C terminus, yeah, either by DCC atau you can use active ester, yeah. Then adding the new amino acid. So this reaction, yeah, for the first 1 hour yang saya dah jelaskan, we call it as solution phase. Yeah. So after the break, I will show you how to do synthesis using easier method. Yeah, multiple times easier peptide synthesis. Yeah. Okay, so let's have a 8 minutes break. Yeah. So I need to have a break. Yeah? So you can have a break as well. So I'll be back at 9 o'clock. Okay? All right. I'll see you. I'll see you in 8 minutes. If you use protecting groups, you still get porridge at the end of your reaction, but at least your peptide is the major component. Yeah? Your peptide is the major component, and you still have some minor components, but they are a lot. Yeah, they are a lot. So purification is still the stumbling block in getting your why. That's the reason why Bruce Merrifield, yeah, created a solid phase peptide synthesis. Yeah. So in solid phase peptide synthesis, solid support. Yeah. So dia letak resin, yeah, solid support, and this is the first amino acid, right? And then it will react with the second amino acid. It will react with the third amino acid, fourth amino acid, etc. Right? And at the end of the reaction, what happened? You just ambil ni lah, just tarik ni, because in solid support, right? Just ambil je, yeah? That's it. You got your peptide, and then you cleave from the support, and then you get the peptide. Yeah. So you save a lot of trouble by attaching a peptide to solid support. Yeah. So it's easy to harvest. Yeah? It's easy to harvest the peptide after the reaction. Okay. So purification involves simply washing. Yeah, wash. So I remember when I used this technique, I used a lot of salt to wash the peptide. Yeah, because that's how we purify it. That's how we purify it. We just wash it. And because of that, peptide synthesis is easy now. Yeah, it's an easy work now, not as difficult as before. Yeah, and thanks to Bruce Merrifield. Yeah, this is the person who discovered this solid phase synthesis, and because of this, he got Nobel Prize in chemistry in 1984. It is interesting to note that the reason why Bruce Merrifield discovered this method is because he's not a good chemist. He doesn't like purification. Yeah, he don't like purification. Yeah? So he tried to find a way process so that at least, yeah, if we need purification, at least just 1 or 2 steps. No need multiple steps of purification. You see that laziness, yeah, sometimes will bring you to greatness if you know how to use it, and you know how to, how to put it in a positive way. Yeah. If he's not lazy, if he's a good chemist, of course he will choose purification. He will do purification. He will not discover this method. Yeah. But because he is too lazy to do purification, so that's why he come up with this method. Yeah, and he got Nobel Prize because of this discovery. Yeah. So if you are lazy, it's okay. As long as you put it in a positive way, yeah, your laziness makes you more practical in doing your work and more efficient in doing your work. Yeah. If you are pemalas ni bukan pemalas ni bukan maknanya tak boleh buat kerja. Yeah. Pemalas ni the most efficient way to get things done. Yeah. Bukan maknanya lazy lepas tu tak buat apa-apa. Okay. You know that you need to get your job done, but you are too lazy. So be like Bruce Merrifield, lazy but productive. Yeah, he used his laziness to come up with something more efficient, and not only that, to get Nobel Prize as well. Yeah, so. So we call this as Merrifield procedure. Yeah. So okay, so he can synthesize a a bradykinin, yeah, in 8 days in 68% yield, yeah, or ribonuclease is even, a longer protein, yeah, in 1969. So it involves 11,000 steps. Yeah. So, sorry. Yeah. So this happened. Okay. So this happened. Yeah. Before Bruce Merrifield discovered the solid phase to synthesize ribonuclease, we need 11,000 steps. Yeah? But with the solid phase synthesis, now we can get the peptide within 2 weeks. Yeah, pure peptide within 2 weeks, 14 days, basically. Yeah? So this is the machine that we have in the lab. This is my student, yeah, Izudin. He was my master student. So I took this photo when he did his work in our lab. Now he got his PhD from UK. Yeah, he graduated 2 years ago from UK. So he did his master's in my lab in 2012, 2012, yeah, 2011, 2012, yeah. So a long time ago. So this is the machine that we have, yeah, very small machine, benchtop machine, yeah. And you can see all the solvent we put in the bottle on top of this machine, and you put the amino acid here, dekat ni. So kita letak the amino acid dalam test tube, depending on how long it's, so kita boleh letak dekat sini based on the sequence. These are the solvents, and we control using computer. Okay? So the synthesis can be done within 1 or 2 days. Kita tinggal je 1-2 hari, kita tinggal. Yeah? So nanti the reaction will happen. Yeah? And then at the end of the 2 days, the day 2, we collect the peptide and we purify. Depending on the complexity of the peptide, at least 1 week. Yeah? So we use HPLC. This is HPLC that we have in the lab. Yeah? And to confirm that the peptide that we have is the peptide that we want, we check the molecular weight using mass spectrometry. So the whole process can be done in 2 weeks. And amazingly, because everything is taken care of by machine, you don't need to be a chemist to synthesize a peptide. You don't need to be a chemist. Yeah? Izudin is not a chemist. He's a pharmacist. Yeah. But he's not pure chemist. Yeah? Even in the lab that I worked before, I had a cell biologist. He's a biologist. He did peptide synthesis. He's biologist, He's biologist, but he can do peptide synthesis because everything is taken care of by the machine. He just put the amino acid, and then that's it. Purification is very easy. Yeah, we use the standard protocol to purify. So basically, you don't have to be a chemist. Now, thanks to Bruce Merrifield. Yeah, thanks to Bruce Merrifield. Now, even a non-chemist can synthesize a peptide. Yeah. All right. So this is the solid support that we use. Yeah, polystyrene. Yeah, polystyrene. So we put the polystyrene here, and we have the peptide attached to the polystyrene. Yeah. Etc. Yeah. So this is the solid support that normally used, yeah, in the past, but now we have new type of solid support. So in the past we used polystyrene. Yeah. So it's a all right, and then we activate the polystyrene using chloromethyl methyl ether, yeah, and then it will become activated, and then this, because once it's activated, it will attach to the peptide, yeah, to the protein. So where the protein attached to the solid support here. Yeah, so this is how to how to create the Merrifield resin. Yeah. So the reaction of making a Merrifield resin, even now we can buy the resin. Dah boleh beli dah. Macam kalau you nak phenylalanin atau lysine, for example, then you can buy lysine attached to the resin. Yeah. Now it's easy. You can buy everything, yeah, to make your life easier. So yeah, so this is the resin activated, and you can attach it to the first amino acid. Yeah, you can attach it to the first amino acid, attached to this group, and this is your first amino acid. Yeah, attached to the resin, and then you can sambung lah. You can continue the reaction. Yeah. So this is the second amino acid you attach. Yeah. All right, and then you have second amino acid here. And you add another amino acid, and etc. Yeah. So it will grow. So you put the first amino acid, second amino acid, third amino acid, etc. So it will grow longer and longer and longer and longer. Once you get the peptide from resin, that's it. You remove, you throw the resin. You cannot reuse the resin. Buang je. Okay? And then this is the end product. All right. Maybe many of you don't realize the difference between the product of solid phase synthesis and solution phase synthesis. But maybe some of you can realize a very obvious this and solution phase synthesis. Can you tell me what is the difference between solid phase and solution phase in terms of the steps in synthesizing the peptide? Ada yang perasan? Tak ada. Okay. Tak apa. I understand because this is something actually very obvious, but not many people realize. Do you remember when we synthesize the peptide using solution phase, yeah, the one that I explained in the first 1 hour, we start from where? Kita start dari kanan, yeah, the first amino acid, second amino acid, third amino acid, etc. Kita start daripada N terminus to C terminus. Kita start dari kiri, kita start dari kiri ke kanan. But here in solid phase, we start from where? Kita start dari kanan ke kiri. So we start from C terminus to N terminus. So apa yang kita letak? The first amino acid yang kita letak dekat resin is the last amino acid. Not the first amino acid, the last amino acid. So if you have A, B, C, yeah, you have amino acid A, B, C. The sequence is A, B, C. Apa yang kita letak dekat resin is A ke C?
C.
C, good. So later when I ask you, what is the difference in terms of sequence between solid phase and solution phase? In solution phase, kita ikut sequence yang betul lah. Ya, kita start daripada A, kita lepas tu followed by B, followed by C, ya, kita ikut sequence dia. But in solid phase, in terms of synthesis, in terms of steps, kita start dari belakang macam ni lah, macam apa baca Arab lah, start daripada kanan, ya. Kita start dari kanan, ya. So kita start dari belakang, ya. Kita start dari kanan, we start from C terminus. So the first amino acid that we attach to the resin is the last amino acid in the sequence. Yeah, so we start from the back. Yeah, persis lah. Which is in terms of sequence, this is the first sequence. Yeah, so kita start dari belakang. So solution phase kita macam tulis normal, kita tulis dari kiri. Yang ini kita macam tulis inilah, macam tulis Arab lah. Okay. Kita start dari kanan ya. We start from C terminus. So this is the list of the amino acid with their protecting groups ya. So nanti kalau one day you want to synthesize a peptide, you can buy amino acid with already protected with protecting groups ya. So tak perlu nak you buy amino acid and then you buy protecting groups and then you react, tak perlu. You boleh beli. So ada dekat list ni. TFMSA, you guna HBr for cleavage. So the company will provide you with the list of suitable protected amino acids. This is another list of protected amino acid ya. Yang ni for bulk ya, if you use bulk. Yeah. So the one that I explained to you is bulk. Yeah. So we use bulk. Yeah. But nowadays, some people change to FMOC at the S. So they use so this is different resin ya. This is that used by Mayfield. Yang ni PEM resin, PEM Sure, Wang Sure. 20 years ago, I used Wang resin. But right now, I use this TRP resin. Sure resin. So there are different resin that you can use as a solid support, depending on either you want to use BOC or you use FMOC. Yeah, if you use FMOC, then you can choose this resin. Yeah, this is FMOC, and this is BOC resin. So there are two types of chemistry. Yeah, you can use BOC. You can use FMOC. If you use BOC, normally you need to use a strong acid to cleave the solid support. Yeah, you have to use a strong acid to cleave the protecting groups. Yeah, so that's why now most people they are moving to FMOC. Yeah? Because in FMOC you can use a weak acid. Yeah, you can use weak acid to remove the protecting groups. Yeah, which is TFA. Yeah. For BOC, you have to use gas, so it's not practical anymore. Yeah? So now we are moving to FMOC. In terms of reaction, is milder compared to BOC. Okay, how to remove the resin? We call it as a cleavage mixture. Yeah? If you use methyl resin, this is the mixture that use at the same time it will remove the protecting group as well and the protocol. Yeah? You nampak, you kena guna HF, kita kalau boleh kita tak nak guna lah HF. Yeah? So that's why as I told you, not many people use BOC chemistry anymore. Now we use FMOC. Yeah, we use FMOC. Right? Kalau kita guna FMOC, you see the acid that we use, TFA, is mild. Yeah, it's a milder acid, so the reaction is safer. So we don't use HF anymore. Okay, and this is the recipe for cleavage mixture. Ada kita panggil dia as mixture B, mixture K, mixture L, P. Kenapa dia panggil semua ni? I don't know. I don't know. This is the code that people use for so many years. Yeah. For example, solution B, it contains TFA, phenol, water, tips with the ratio of 88, 5 to 5 to 5 to 2. It's suitable for all peptides. But if you have a peptides with certain amino acid, for example, if you if you have arginine and TRP, you cannot use this, you know. So there are some precautions here that you need to pay attention. That this cleavage mixture actually is different. Yeah, D and K and L, they are different. You know, some can be used to all peptides, some can be used with, if you have arginine, you cannot use this. Yeah. And also the reaction condition, 1 to 4 hours. Normally we run it for 2 hours. Yeah. We don't use HF anymore, yeah, because HF is quite dangerous. So I don't really like using Bock chemistry now. On depan, ya. Solution belakang, ya. In terms of synthesis lah, in terms of synthesis. So you attach the C terminus to the bit, to the support, solid support first, and then couple each amino acid by removing the Bock group using TFA from N terminus and then add BCC. The next amino acid at BCC, and then you cleave the finished peptide from the bits. If you use the FMO chemistry, you can use TFA. So it's a milder amino acid, it's a milder acid compared to HF. So two main chemistry, FMO chemistry and Bock chemistry. Yeah. Right. So that's all for today. Yeah. So today you learn how to synthesize a peptide. Yeah. Well, I wish we have a lab for this. I think it's a good practice for you to know how to synthesize a peptide, but somehow we don't have lab here for this subject. Yeah? But inshallah, one day you know how to synthesize a peptide. Yeah. It's very interesting. Actually, it's very easy. So that's why I in my research I do a lot of peptide synthesis, because I'm a bad chemist. Yeah, I don't like purification, to be honest. I hate purification. Yeah. So thanks to Merrifield. Yeah. I really thank him for discovering a easy way to synthesize a peptide. So now everyone can do peptide synthesis with a relatively easy method. Yeah. All right, that's all for today. Any question? Ada soalan?